Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord, praise his name. Proclaim his salvation day after day. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. For great is the Lord and most worthy of praise. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Splendor and majesty are before him. Strength and glory are his sanctuary.
All right. So tonight I will be talking about the company Amazon. Wait, this isn't my marketing class. Okay, that's on Tuesday. Whoops. Okay. So when I was asked to do this, I was thinking, what should I talk about? Because, I like music and I like comedy. However, I think there are a few more verses in the Bible about music than comedy, so I'm going to go with singing. The benefits of singing, to be precise. And as if to say that this was the right decision, during Winterfest, Dave Onspa recommended a booklet about singing. And then on like Monday of this week, my accounting professor showed us a video of a Navy SEAL admiral giving a commencement speech, and he mentioned a story about singing that helps emphasize one of my points. So, seems like it worked out pretty good. So here are the 5 benefits of singing that I can come up with. So, number 1, singing helps teach people. The apostles urged numerous times throughout the New Testament that church communities should use songs as methods of instruction and teaching, which we still do to great effect to this day. One example is Colossians 3:16, which says, "Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing hymns and psalms and spiritual songs with thanksgiving in your hearts to God." So one of the first things we do with our youngins is teach them the song "Jesus Loves Me," which, while it is a simple little song, it also holds some pretty marvelous messages. One of which is the reason why God does what he does for us, because he loves us. And the second one is that it teaches an implicit trust in the Bible. Why do we know Jesus loves us? Because the Bible told us so. And that's all the reason we need. Hearing songs from different times in our lives can also instantly transport us to the time and place that we heard them first. So if we teach our young ones with songs about the word, then they will remember the lessons when they hear the songs next time, even if they've drifted away from the church, even if they haven't heard them in years. And that is a very good thing. Hymns enable us to better feel the biblical stories and place ourselves in them, rather than just gaining an intellectual understanding of them. They help us connect more emotionally to the characters in the stories, because they were real people who felt real things and went through real events. They also provide a concise way to share the good news for those who either don't have the attention span or the interest to hear a full-blown sermon. And as one with a short attention span can attest, it's very nice. Singing is simple and universal. The second benefit is singing inspires people. Singing inspires us to let go of our daily concerns and help us prepare to worship God. Elie Wiesel, a Nobel laureate and a Holocaust survivor, said the quote, "Singing is Jacob's ladder, forgotten on earth by the angels. Sing and you shall defeat death. Sing and you defeat the foe." And as a Holocaust survivor, she had some pretty bad earthly foes, to say the least. If she thinks singing will help defeat your foes, then she probably knows a thing or two. Singing allows us to worship in even the worst of situations, like the Holocaust. Or in Acts 16, Paul and Silas were in a Philippine jail, I guess the actual word would be. They were thrown in there for casting a spirit out of a young girl. As they were singing, not only were they inspired and given hope, but the inmates around them started listening to the songs. We don't know what those inmates believed, but chances are they did not believe in Jesus, and yet they still drew hope from it. Back to that commencement speech I talked about earlier. The admiral's name was William McRaven, and the commencement speech was at the University of Texas. His story is that during boot camp, one particular week of harsh training, they were taken out to some mud flats to survive 15 hours of intense training in biting cold, in intense winds, and in unending pressure from their authority figures to quit, to weed out the weak ones. Due to some infraction that Admiral McRaven and his comrades committed, they were ordered into the mud and sank in it up to their necks. And they were told that they come out at one of two times. One, after 5 people had quit the military, or 2, at dawn. With 8 hours to go, it was pretty apparent that some people were going to quit. And after surviving up to 8 hours, that is pretty commendable, and I would have caved much sooner. But 8 hours to go, it was apparent that some were going to quit. And then one person started singing. Then another started singing. And soon, all of them were singing together. The authorities over them didn't like this, as it helped them feel more comfortable, but they didn't stop. The mud felt warmer, the winds felt less intense, and the dawn seemed closer due to the singing. The singing gave them hope to persevere in harsh conditions, which links well to Romans 5:3-5. Suffering produces endurance, endurance character, and character hope. Singing helped them endure suffering. So singing helped it produce endurance, character, and hope. Number 3, singing balance intellect and emotion. People are hungry to experience God, both on an intellectual level and an emotional level. As Psalm 84:2 puts it, "My soul longs, yes, faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh sings for joy to the living God." As a general rule, and feel free to fight me on this if you want to, but as a general rule, Church of Christ sermons and services put the majority of their influence on intellectual learning and learning what's right and what's wrong. And while that's important, emotional aspects of Christianity are also very important. Singing gives us the perfect place to emphasize this emotion, which also helps make service more appealing to those who are emotionally driven rather than intellectually driven. Also, sermons tend to put the person talking at a place of power because right now I could say whatever I want to from up here, and you can only push me off after the fact. Singing, however, while you can argue that the song leader has power over the congregation, I have seen congregations who are used to singing at certain tempos either bring down or speed up the entire congregation, and the song ends at the tempo the congregation wants to sing. So it's hard to argue too powerfully for the song leader's power. Sorry, Dave. Number 4, singing joins people in community. Singing is one of the church's primary means to inspire and build community. One of the final acts that Jesus did with his disciples before being betrayed and killed was singing a hymn with them before going to the Mount of Olives, which shows how important it is. That's Matthew 26:30 and Mark 14:26, by the way, in case someone's keeping track. Singing was also used by African American slaves in order to establish their own sense of self and community and to band together around their slave masters. Various songs were also included in the Bible, a few being Mary's song of praise after being told she would birth the Christ, Moses and Miriam's song after crossing the Red Sea, and the entire book of Psalms. These songs show biblical examples of expressing emotion in groups and before others. Even Moses and Miriam taught their song, their personal song, to like everybody in the community. These show that we're supposed to be exploring every facet of human emotion together as a group. Letting out emotion is good. Singing also requires being fully human and fully vulnerable before the other members. I imagine it was very hard for first century Christians to be vulnerable before each other, since even one bad seed among them could report them to the authorities and get the entirety of them executed. Number 5, singing creates a sense of awe. For this one, I did something bad. I don't really have a Bible verse for this specific point, but in the booklet, there was 3 pretty good stories about it. One was a woman named Anne Lamott, who's a nonfiction writer and a progressive political activist. At one point in her life, she was in a period of deep despair and lived in a fog of alcohol, speed, and cocaine. She just happened to visit a flea market next to a small, rundown church with a small community. And despite being hostile towards Christianity, she was drawn in by the realness and the vulnerability of just their singing. And she continued to be drawn back again and again by the singing, even though she didn't agree with and wasn't interested in the sermons. The author also includes a story about Bill Henderson, who grew up in the church and then drifted away. But one day, years later, his wife and his daughter had been going to church without him. But there was a harsh blizzard, a record blizzard. So he decided to drive his wife and daughter to church. And the singing there grabbed him and drew him back into the church community. And a little while later, he became a Christian, and years later, he became an elder. Then there's Kathleen Norris, who also grew up in the church and drifted away. And then coming back one time, she had tears well upon hearing hymns of worship for the first time since her childhood. It struck her how fortunate and blessed she was to have a second chance to come back, and that chance has been brought on through the power of the awe that singing creates. So, in conclusion, singing is important because it teaches people, inspires people, balances intellect and emotion, joins communities, and creates a sense of awe. If you have felt the call to join this community that we've created together through the waters of baptism, or if you have some need that we can help you with, please come forward as together we stand and sing.
Song number 948. I am resolved, 948.